People kept asking me in my Twitch chat, what were your favorite games of 2020? What were your favorite games? What were your favorite games? And I thought about it, I was like, I didn't do a video, so I was like, why not just share my favorite games of 2020? Let's talk about it. What's going on, beautiful people? The Black Hokage here, aka TBH, and to be honest, let's talk about my favorite games of 2020. I don't got 10 because I didn't like 10 games from 2020. But before we get into that, there will be a link in the description box below to my giveaway for a free Xbox Series X. Yes, I'm giving away the new next-gen console from Microsoft that is 4K capable of playing Cuphead at 120 frames. If you want to get your hands on a free Xbox Series X, pause this video, click that link in the description box below. It doesn't take but a minute to sign up, then come back and watch this video. And of course, when you watch this video, make sure to leave a like on it to support the kid if you want to keep me motivated. But yeah, the following video is just an excerpt from Hokage Thoughts episode 50. I talked about my favorite games of 2020 as well as some honorable mentions. And I wanted to turn it into its own separate video because I'm pretty sure most of you will not watch the full podcast. But in case you do want to watch the full podcast, there will be a link in the description box below to that as well. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the video, the conversation. If you did, comment in the comment section below. What were your favorite games of 2020? Make sure to hit the like button, and I'll talk to y'all later. Top games of 2020. A lot of y'all were asking me in my stream if I did a top 10 games of 2020, and to be honest, like I sat there and thought about it, I didn't have a top 10 games because 2020 was weak as hell in terms of games. The first half was cool, but the second half was just weak as hell in my opinion. So I wasn't able to come up with 10. I think we talked about our favorite games on the GI podcast, but obviously a lot of y'all didn't listen to it, so I guess I'll repeat myself on this podcast on what were my favorite games. But if you come over to the Twitch streams, you probably have an idea of what it is. So let's talk about it. I created a list. I only have 6 games that I genuinely enjoyed in 2020. And then I have a few honorable mentions. And this is in no particular order. I'm just gonna, no particular order. I'm just gonna state what were my favorite games, and if you missed out on them, I think these are the ones that were worth playing from 2020. So the first and foremost, this one might be random, but Animal Crossing New Horizons. I actually really enjoyed this. It was my first Animal Crossing that I ever played. I think I really enjoyed this because it just helped to relax the mind. It's almost like meditation in video game form. If you've never played Animal Crossing, you'll probably sit there and wonder what's the point of the game? And in all honesty, there's no fucking point. You just walk around town, you plant trees, you go fishing, you interact with all the little different funny characters, you interact with the events. You can live you can go to your friend's island, you can steal stuff from them. It's almost kind of like The Sims with cute ass animals and shit. The only thing that I would say that makes it different though, that's really dope about it, I think Animal Crossing is actually a really great game. At least New Horizons, because I don't know how the other ones play. I think Animal Crossing New Horizons on the Switch is a great game for kids. If you have kids or a little nephew or a little cousin, I think you should gift them this game because it does a great job of teaching you about economics and what it means to be an adult. Because there's this character in the game named Tom Hook, and he will rob you for everything. This motherfucker's a loan shark. He's gonna teach you real quick what it means to get a loan, what it means to be on credit, and what it means to pay somebody back. So basic economics, low-key, this game does teach it, and I think it's actually good for kids. And it's just a very relaxing game to go fishing and just chill with your friends. I think this game came at the perfect time with COVID first hit, and I enjoyed it for a good 5 months or whatever. So shout out to Animal Crossing New Horizons. That's one game that I would pick. The next one is probably really random. You probably wouldn't expect this, but I actually really enjoyed Genshin Impact. It is available on pretty much every platform, PC, console. It's on mobile too. And what's really good about it is your accounts are linked. So I was playing mainly on PC when I was playing this heavily. And then I remember I was like, let me try out the mobile version, bro. You log into the mobile version and I swear to God, I remember I was on PC, I left off in the middle of an island or something like that. And I was thinking when I logged into mobile, it would just log me in and I would have all my game saved, but it would put me in a town or whatever, one of the hub worlds. It literally logged me in and I picked up exactly where I left off on that island. The cross save on that shit is fucking fire. But in terms of gameplay, Genshin Impact is basically it's like Breath of the Wild meets Mass Effect almost. Or any BioWare game, because every BioWare game has that primer and detonator system. So like the movement system and the climbing in the world, the beauty of the world and the exploration reminds me a lot of Breath of the Wild. The color palette is vibrant, but the actual combat, it reminds me a lot of a BioWare game where like you collect different characters and they all have different type of elements and abilities, and you can combine those abilities to create bigger explosions and attacks and stuff. So it's exactly like BioWare's detonation system, the prime and detonation system. So like the best way to describe this game is a free-to-play Breath of the Wild meets Mass Effect. And like, if that sounds interesting to you, I think you should try it because it's free to play. The only knock that I have on Genshin Impact, and like this game would probably be top tier, probably top 3 to me if it didn't have this, was its actual business model. It's what they call a gacha game because it is a mobile game that you can play on PC and console. It has a lot of microtransactions in it. You can unlock all the characters playing for free, but this shit is super grindy. And unfortunately, that's kind of what made me drop the game. The gameplay mechanics and the exploration is a ton of fun. The world and fighting the big enemies and bosses, a ton of fun. And it has a story fully voice acted. Like, you'd be genuinely shocked how much quality of life, like how quality this free to play game is. Like, it changed the game in my opinion, but that grinding aspect, it just kind of got on my nerves. If you have the time for it, especially with COVID going on, I think you'll really enjoy Genshin Impact. For me, I just didn't have the time to sit there and grind, and I don't want to pay for characters. Like, I'm just not a big DLC buyer. I'm not a big microtransaction buyer. I stand by that shit. I'm gonna die on that hill, and it is what it is. But I think it's still worth giving a shot because it's free to play. It's called Genshin Impact. It's made by a Chinese developer. A lot of people were saying that it's a ripoff of Breath of the Wild, but like they said in an interview, they were heavily inspired by that. But in my opinion, it's Breath of the Wild meets Mass Effect. And if that sounds interesting to you, I think you should check out Genshin Impact. The next one that I have on my list for top games of 2020 is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Not a lot to say here. I mean, you saw my review. I really enjoyed the game. If you enjoyed the first Marvel Spider-Man on the PS4, you'll enjoy Miles Morales. It's on PS4, but I played it on PS5. Game's gorgeous. The combat is great with all the new electric abilities, new gadgets. Miles' story was really good. The only real knock on it is it's really short. And then on top of that, it's short. And some of the new side missions, like the Prowler side missions, I didn't like that shit. So it made it even shorter because I skipped all of his side missions. They were fucking ass. But the actual story and the set pieces and the boss fights, it is a roller coaster ride. Unfortunately, it's a roller coaster ride that you can get through in like 4 hours if you just run through the story. I beat the game at like 95%, and it took me like 7 or 8 hours. It didn't take long. It did not take long. I beat that bitch like in 3-4 sittings. But it was still a good game. I just wish it was longer. It's not a reason to buy a PS5. So if you want to get Miles Morales, I highly recommend getting it on PS4. Maybe wait till like the price drops on it, if you because it's so short. But it is still one of my favorite games of 2020 that I enjoyed. I just wished it was a little bit longer. It's like I said, I don't know what to say about it other than you're kind of just playing it for the story, because it's kind of more of the same, just with the black guy and Tim's and new suits. Shout out to Miles. The next one I got on my list is Doom Eternal. This game turned me into a Doom fan. I've never really been a Doom fan, and I played the original on PC way back in the 90s. I played Doom 2016. It just didn't really do much for me. But Doom Eternal, which is the sequel to Doom's 2016 reboot, this one was fire, bro. Like, and just as a warning, like, this is easily the most fast-paced shooter, balls to the wall ass shit I've ever played. Like, you have to be in a certain mood. I remember there were certain days where I was tired and like you're moving so fast and constantly like just shifting your eyes. Like, you will get really mentally tired playing this game because the way the mechanics work is, in order to get more ammo and to heal, you have to constantly be killing shit. So that forces you to constantly be on the move. Like, it's so fucking fast, and it creates really fun situations because you mix and match the weapons and abilities, and you create these crazy combos through shooting. It's one of those games, if you want to turn your brain off, if you had a really bad day and you just want to go to hell and blast some motherfuckers, Doom Eternal is fire. The soundtrack is fire with the fucking rock playing in the background to really get you in the mood. I couldn't tell you what the fuck is going on in the story other than you're in hell and fighting some demons or some shit like that. But if you need a game that is a stress reliever, Doom Eternal is lit. Just make sure that you got enough rest, because like I said, it is going to hurt your eyes. And also, the game is visually gorgeous. One of the best looking games. I played it on PC and it was optimized. It ran smooth. This game turned me into a Doom fan, and if there's going to be if they're doing a trilogy with the new reboot, I definitely will be on the next Doom. I definitely will be on it. I highly recommend picking it up. And the next one I got on my list is Ghost of Tsushima. Man, Niggas love ninjas and niggas love samurai. This game got both. And on top of that, it got a great story, man. Freaking, if you're not familiar with Ghost of Tsushima, I'm sure you heard about it, but the Mongols invade Japan, and you play a guy who starts off as a samurai, but in order to defeat the Mongols, you know, they fought by any means necessary. They did a lot of sneaky and just, you know, whatever type tactics, but these samurais live by a code. So you play this character that's like struggling with his identity. Like, should he honor his uncle and remain to the samurai code and fight in an honorable manner, or do you take on the skill tree of the ninja and you start learning more stealthy tactics and become dishonorable? And because of that, there's multiple endings for that, which is fire. The combat is fire. You can create like a hybrid of a samurai and a ninja. And like what was great about this is the game was fucking gorgeous. The colors popped. The white flowers, the yellows, the trees blowing in the wind. I didn't like the blowing in the wind mechanic to find the mission. I didn't like that shit. But the standoffs, when you had to stand off with people and like quick kill them, the final boss fight, the side missions were great in this game. They were side missions with meaning because you had to interact with different NPCs in the world who had their own stories, and you had to help them, almost kind of like Mass Effect's loyalty missions. And they had multiple chapters to their side missions, and upon completing those, you would get like special gear or unlocks that it rewarded you for doing the side missions, but you were also invested in them because it felt like it was a part of the main story and it helped you bond with those characters. I felt very satisfied on it. And then the icing on the cake is like a couple months later, they came out with the multiplayer, and the multiplayer was fire. And the crazy part is, I think the multiplayer, I feel like it's just a beta. There's going to, if you play it, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but if you play it, I feel like there's gonna be a Ghost of Tsushima 2. Like it ended on a cliffhanger, a good cliffhanger in my opinion. I wasn't mad about it. It got me excited. I was like, ooh. And then they put that multiplayer out. I feel like the multiplayer in Ghost of Tsushima 1 was kind of a beta test to kind of get a feel for how the people feel about it. And I feel like they're going to make some tweaks and balances, and they're going to come back. And I think Ghost of Tsushima 2 multiplayer is going to be more heavily implemented in it. And if it is, I would like to see them do co-op in the story. That would be fire. Kind of like what they're doing with Gotham Knights, being able to play stealth with friends, because that always creates funny moments. But like, woof, this game was bloody. The story was great, great set pieces, great action, great skill trees. This was just a very satisfying game. For those of you all out there bitching that Ubisoft will not make Assassin's Creed Japan, honestly, this is like the closest thing we got to it. Like it was the parkour. The only thing I would knock on is the parkour is not as good as Assassin's Creed. It's not as fluid, but it's good enough. It's serviceable, I say that. But if you're looking for Assassin's Creed Japan, you gotta play Ghost of Tsushima. Come on, guys. And last but not least, I said that I would not put these in any order. Those last 5 that I just listed, they're in no particular order. But this one, if I did have to put it in order, I feel like this would be my #1 favorite game. My favorite game of 2020 was Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1. I've never really been a big Final Fantasy fan, but I feel like this game turned me into a Final Fantasy fan. Once you got I was a little iffy about it, but once I got a hang of the combat, the flow of it, it's not a button masher, it's more of an ebb and flow type of game. Once I understood the flow of it, it was nothing but pure fun. The spells you get in it, the ability to cast like them big ass monsters and shit, the summons, I mean, like that. The boss fights were epic, bro. Fighting that house that had like all the elements and shit, that shit had me sweating. It had the Twitch chat on fucking edge. It was just, and then I was thoroughly engaged by the story. Like I never, I did play Final Fantasy VII, but I never beat it. I played it like at a friend's house. That came out like in what, 97, I think, or something like that. I was a kid. I didn't have a PlayStation. So like I only got to see tidbits of it at my friend's house. So I actually got to see the full story. And then the ending was fire. And the chat was telling me that like the ending is actually different from the original one. They changed it a little bit. So like I enjoyed what I played. The final boss fight with fucking Sephiroth, that shit was fucking fire, bro. I look forward to part 2. Like Final Fantasy 7, 15 was like to me, it was okay. But this 7 remake, and it was gorgeous, by the way, on the PS4. That shit pushed the PS4. I got a PS4 Pro. That shit pushed it to its fucking limits. You could tell that game was fucking gorgeous, and I am looking forward to part 2. I really hope that they don't do what they said they might do in the fucking article. There was an article where the developer was saying that like they want to, because of the strong response that the remake got, they want to rush the development and they want to get out more content as possible. So there might be more than, because I think the original plan was to only do like 2 parts, but like they're talking about doing multiple. I'm like, I don't know about that. Part 1 of the Final Fantasy remake, it took me like 40 hours to beat. Some people, it took them like 50, 60. It depends on how many side missions and shit you do. There's a lot of content here, apparently a lot of content that was not in the original game, so that's why they broke it down into parts. It's not the same. It actually is a remake, and this remake I thoroughly enjoyed. I'm a fan fucking of all the characters in it. The way you could switch between the different characters at any point by hitting the D-pad and then being able to combo the abilities, it kind of once again reminded me of the primer and detonator system in Mass Effect. Anything that's like Mass Effect, I love that shit. I love that shit. So I look forward to the sequel. That was my favorite game of 2020. A few honorable mentions. So I just started playing this game, but I feel like if I finished it, it probably would have been on this list. So I had to put it on the honorable mentions just out of integrity, because I did not finish the game because the ending might be completely trash. But based off what I played, like the 10 hours that I have on it, Immortals Fenyx Rising, I'm thoroughly enjoying this game, and I feel like this is gonna be one of my favorite games from 2020 when it's said and done. It kind of went under the radar. If I did a preview video on it because I got to play it early, but the reason I didn't play it when it came out is because it came out like the same week that Cyberpunk came out. Fuck that game. I'm joking, not fuck that game, but notice it's not on the list. I didn't play it because Cyberpunk had came out like the same week, and Ubisoft didn't really promote this game, so it kind of flew under the radar and it got buried by Cyberpunk. But the best way I can describe Immortals Fenyx Rising is take Assassin's Creed meets Devil May Cry meets Breath of the Wild, and mix those three together with this big, beautiful open world. It's just a simple, fun game that I promise you a lot of literally, I've been recommending this game to people, and literally everybody that's played it says they absolutely love it, and they all say the same thing: where the fuck was the promotion for this game? Ubisoft really dropped the ball. So I highly recommend you guys check out Immortals Fenyx Rising, especially because you should be able to. I seen it on sale like a week or two ago for like 30 bucks or whatever, because like I said, it flew under the radar. I don't think it's gonna sell well because it's a new IP, but the game is just flat out fun. If you love Breath of the Wild, you love Devil May Cry, you love Assassin's Creed, you're gonna love this game. And on top of that, it has like this cheeky sense of humor. It's not a game you take too seriously. It's vibrant. Its color is beautiful. Somebody in my Twitch chat said the other day when I was playing it on stream, he said, he's like, I see what you mean when you say you want more like just fun spirited games. Like, this game is so colorful and beautiful and just lighthearted and fun to play. I'm like, yeah, that's what games are supposed to be about. Like, I'm sick and tired of games like The Last of Us 2. You notice that wasn't on my list either. Like, they take themselves way too freaking seriously, bro. I don't need all this dark and gloomy shit. The world is dark and gloomy. The world is dark and gloomy. I don't need that shit right now, bro. The next honorable mention that I had was Tony Hawk Pro Skaters 1 and 2 Remaster. It was fire. For the most part, I got tired of collecting the tapes, but it's a really good, well done remaster. They take some of the mechanics of the newer ones and improve the visuals and put it in 1 and 2, and you get this package that's really good. And you can get that one for dirt cheap too, but I played it on PC. It ran really well. Star Wars Squadrons, I thought that was pretty good. I actually really enjoyed the multiplayer. I just didn't think the longevity of it was that great, but I was surprised by Star Wars Squadrons. I put that in the honorable mentions. And then what was it, Super Mario All-Stars 3D on the Switch. It's just a collection of what was it, Sunshine, Super Mario 64, and Mario Galaxy. 3 classic games in one, but basically it's not even a remaster, it's just a port. But I enjoyed playing Sunshine, besides the few headaches that I got with the camera. It was still some great streams. So those are my honorable mentions, as well as my favorite games of 2020. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I think I'm gonna turn this into a video. So if you're watching the video version on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button if you did.